Welcome to the Detroit House of Comedy podcast, everybody. I'm Kyle Forsyth. I'm the host of this podcast. I also the general manager here, stand-up comedian. Today we got Shane Torres. Thank you for being on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. I don't know if I didn't tell you this out of the gate, but this is the first episode, so we appreciate
you did not tell me.
It's brand new.
Man.
We're doing this every single weekend.
I'm really taking a bruising this week.
Yeah, dude, it's all. I mean, hey, it's something that we want to do like really bad.
You should. Acme does it too, and they're a great club.
That's sort of where we got the idea from. Honestly, when they originally sent me this, they were like, Acme does this, and they do it inside of the club. They're like, we want to do something like this, and I was like, I'd love to. They're like, do you have something you want?
I think we'll do that.
They're like, is that something you would, or that we could find somebody to do, like a podcast or something? They're like, who would you have hosted? I was like, me. They're like, all right, sounds good. Yeah. They're like, that makes sense. They're like, you're already there.
You're taking every job off the table at this fucking place.
Yeah, I mean, hey, we got door staff and producers. We got producer David over there.
Hey, David.
Yeah.
Inaugural show.
Yeah. So we got producer David here helping out, which is awesome, and he's also a great door staff here. It's pretty wild. We have a bunch of comedians working here, honestly, as door staff and everything. Yeah, it's I really love, sort of that comedy store format, I guess, and like a lot of comedy
I think it can lead to a
general.
good community. Like, yeah. It can. I think it can get a little hairy at times, but
definitely.
But it can lead to a very good community and a strong focal point for everyone. It's just like people are going to be hitting you up with the like, oh my God, I really want the so-and-so weekend. Yeah, like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's our, I mean, hey, it happens. It's already happened, or there's been people who got a weekend, they're like, but why didn't you give me that one? And I'm like, they're bringing their own.
But I did give you a check, though, didn't I?
Yeah. It is weird, though. My favorite thing, though.
Shane Torres' weekend was wide open.
Yeah. My favorite thing, though, is, there's another club in Ann Arbor, which you're probably familiar with, and I got really humbled when I first emceed there, and it was because when I got my first weekend there, I looked at the club owner, Roger, and I go, who's headlining? And he goes, Brian Scolaro. Who you may know. And he goes, Brian Scolaro. And at the time, I go, I've never heard of him. But he goes, I'm sure he's never heard of you either. And I was like, thank you very much. I'll see you soon.
Yeah, that's like he just moved back to New York, Brian did. Yeah.
Oh, but yeah, it was just it really humbled me. And,
well, it shows you like you are being kind of rude without your intention being rude. Like, you learn to mind your tongue. It's a sensitive business. Yeah,
it really is, and it makes you that really put everything I said in check real quickly. Shane, I don't know if you realize this, but how I found out about you in the first place and even discovered who you were as a comedian is because the comedy community at large loves you.
Oh.
And when your album came out, it felt like my whole timeline on Facebook that day was filled with, you have to listen to this album.
Oh,
this
really?
Guy
That's cool.
The only time I really remember seeing that for a comedian who at the time I didn't know was Dave Waite also had sort of something like that, where a lot of comics were like, you got to listen to this guy's album when he came out with Hot Doggin'.
Yeah.
Which is also a very funny album.
God damn it, Dave.
It's a very funny album. He literally,
he's brilliant. He's so funny.
Yeah, very funny. And,
I think I have I'm fortunate enough to have people think I do a good job and like me. I guess like peers, which is something I do value a lot, but they don't buy tickets to comedy. Yeah, they are the very last people to buy tickets to comedy.
Isn't that the double-edged sword of it?
Is,
though,
but it also means I'm creative and it's good. Like I can. If you're doing something that your peers like, and I guess some of these people do like it,
some of these people are at the top of the game of comedy.
Some people
who are your peers who admire you as well.
Yeah, so that's nice. I guess what I'm saying is, if people who are doing well like what I do, which some people do, then I guess I'm doing something right. You know what I like I'm showing some kind of promise at the very least, because I still feel like a young comic in a lot of ways. I'm not. I haven't been headlining that long and veteran that long in the sense of I still haven't had my big run of stuff yet. Yeah.
You've been touring, doing club weekends on a regular basis for the past probably few years now, right?
Yeah, really busy. And then I still I guess, how do I say it? I think my album came out 4 years ago. And that's when things really, really turned into like I was already headlining plenty before that, but I was like I was already headlining stuff like a year before that, maybe even 2. But I will say the quality of the kind of work I was getting changed a bit. Like, so I guess I've been a full-time stand-up for 6 years between like cobbling together my own headlining dates, featuring for some people and doing those kind of things. But the quality of work really changed about 2 years ago, meaning like good clubs want me. And sometimes I don't have to go do like
the A rooms and B rooms.
And then I was getting asked by bigger comics to do things and festivals and things like that are fun, which is nice. It's really nice. Because sometimes, like it sucks to say this, and it's not that funny people don't work these rooms or those kind of rooms, but like sometimes you have to be like, I got to go out to the middle of nowhere and do a one-nighter for 300. And it's not a gig you're looking forward to really in the sense of a creative thing, but it's not that they can't be fun, and it's not that funny people don't work those rooms. It's just not like, it's not how you imagine your success happening. Yeah, a lot of the time.
Exactly. For sure. You don't imagine success being a one-nighter in the middle of Indiana.
No,
where it's the only bar in that town.
I don't
so everyone's
imagine,
there.
Truly, I do not imagine a sold-out arena in Indiana as a success. Because fuck Indiana.
Indiana's rough.
Yeah, I don't love it. I don't love it.
Yeah.
Prove me wrong.
Indianapolis is not terrible all around.
I think it's a dog shit town.
Okay. It's not the greatest town, but like they got a solid club down there. Helium's pretty fun.
Helium's a great club. No, and there are funny people. There are a lot of really funny people that have come from there.
Yeah.
And I have like good friends who live there. But as a city, it's like kind of somebody show me a good time because I don't know what it is. It's like Detroit. I have, I know Detroit's had some rough times or whatever, but it's still really fun. It's fun every time I come here. There's real people, real bars, like a real real nightlife. You can and there's interesting artistic people.
I 100% know it. I was in Indiana 2 weekends ago on a Sunday, and I did Helium down there, and then after that, we did another show, and by that point, it was about 11 p.m. at night, and they go, the only thing open is Taco Bell that's 30 minutes away. I was like, you got one Taco Bell in Indianapolis, and it's 30 minutes away, and that's all we can eat right now? I was like, you got to be kidding me. They're like, that or the bar, and we can go to the bar. And I was like, let's go to Taco Bell, I guess.
It's quieter. It's quieter than I like. And a lot of and I'm like, people can kind of dog on the Midwest, but I'm like, there's some fucking great towns in the Midwest, man. Like,
I love the Midwest.
But Detroit's great.
Biased.
Milwaukee's awesome. Chicago speaks for itself. Minneapolis is great. Indianapolis is kind of the only city I do not have. Sorry, I don't care. It's whack.
That's fair.
It's like your big thing is to go to that steakhouse. What is it? St. Elmo's Steakhouse or something like that?
Something like that.
Yeah, and then they're like, you got to get the shrimp cocktail. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, I'm
going to go to Indiana to get seafood. Kiss my dick.
At a steakhouse?
Yeah.
It's not even a seafood restaurant.
You got the sauce. It's like, oh my God, ketchup and horseradish and rum.
Yeah. Amazing. I can't wait.
Eat my peanut shit.
It's interesting, though, that you say you love the Midwest because on paper you are from Texas and then like a transplant to Portland and then kind of a transplant to New York. All three of those places seem like places that would kind of hate the Midwest on paper.
I don't know, man. Like, I think maybe a little, but like not really. Like, I mean, like, because all those towns I just named have like a Portland element to them and a New York element to them. Like, they're certainly not as blue collar as actually I will say New York still has some very blue collar people in it, but like, Portland has blue collar people, but it's also like they're hippies and
we got sections. I mean,
but like, there's like
hipsters.
the neighborhoods or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, the shit I gravitate to, like the fun coffee shop and record store or whatever, is like. Every one of those cities I just named has like 5 of those kind of places.
Yeah, we got one.
Yeah.
We got them around here.
Yeah, just show me where it is.
Yeah, I don't know if they sell records, but we got places that are that vibe. Yeah, for sure.
That's
some nice little coffee shops in the area. Yeah, I'll give you recommendations afterwards. I'm a huge coffee person. Before this. It was managing at a donut shop, and I was like the head barista and manager there, and then it was just barista jobs before that. You know,
yeah.
it's like
I
the
did,
typical.
I did it for a while too.
Yeah, it's a typical comedian resume.
Yeah,
like
you
you
gotta
have to
get
be a
out of work by 6
barista for a couple
Yeah.
years. Yeah.
Well, you also like I get off work by 6 so I can hit every show I need to.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then I got to be up at 5 a.m. to get there and open this fucking dickhole of a place.
And I worked at one that was in one of the richest cities in the area. I get Bloomfield Hills for anybody watching in the area.
Wow,
It's
Bloomfield Hills.
It
where
has
it's real,
hills
real.
in the name. You know
Yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
It has hills and field in the name. That's
Yeah.
how you know.
That's
it's
a very
like,
good point.
Yeah.
And bloom.
Yeah, and bloom. So it's got like flower. It's just outdoor. You know, it's not outdoors though. It's just rich people.
Yeah.
And I worked there, and my daily clientele was Matt Stafford from the Detroit Lions and his wife Kelly Stafford.
The guy who just won a Super Bowl with the Rams? Yeah.
He came in. His wife came in every day.
Nice.
Did you ever work at Starbucks when you were a barista?
No, I didn't work. I worked at a little like independent like Portland bakery.
So I'm just gonna put it on blast. Kelly Stafford had my least favorite drink to make at Starbucks. She had. If you're familiar with Starbucks, they print it on like you get like a ticket printed that they sticker on the side of your cup.
And that's how you know how to read it as the barista.
Yeah. Hers was 2 tickets for 1 drink. She had 2 stickers on the side of her cup for 1 drink every day.
Really?
I shit you not.
What was it? Do you remember?
Yeah, I don't remember. Too many modifications to remember. It was that every morning, though.
That's pretty great. What are they gonna? Yeah, like you should share that.
Yeah. Like, I think one of the more interesting I guess this relates to Detroit in some way because it's an Eminem related. Have you heard about Jim Florentine and Eminem?
I mean, I know who they are. Yeah.
Yeah, well, apparently Jim Florentine, because he was on Crank Yankers for years, and Eminem was a huge fan of Crank Yankers, I guess.
Oh, really?
So Eminem's management reached out to Jim Florentine and said, hey, Jim, Eminem wants you to come to his house in Michigan and just hang out with him. And so Jim Florentine was like, yeah, sure, I guess I'll just go hang out with Eminem. And he just showed up, and Eminem was like, hey, how you doing, man? And, like, just wanted to hear him do voices for him and stuff. He was like, I love Special Ed, man. That's, like, my favorite character. And then Jim Florentine just had to put on Special Ed for Eminem, basically. It's a wild move, but I love it.
It is a strange thing to be like, Jim's a successful guy, and then just still be like, there's another level of show business fame that is like so much bigger that like hey, come to Eminem's house and work for free. Like, what?
That would
I guess that's like just shows how weird like fame can be for people. You know, like it's not like Jim Florentine was here tonight and this place was packed. You know, and Eminem came and sat down. Like people would still be like, "This is fucking. Why is Eminem here?" You know, like there would be no like. I get it. It's probably a little weird for him, you know, like to even do it. But Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a lot to think about in that situation, I think.
Yeah, that's got to be weird in general because you had, I mean, obviously it's not the same, but like something sort of similar. I mean, you talked about it a little bit in your set tonight, and I wanted to ask you about it in general. Is you did the Guy Fieri bit, which a lot of people know you for, and some of the people who are here tonight knew you for. Which is that's got to always
about
be wild. With like,
about 25% of the audience. It was a light crowd.
That's always got to be like a weird thing with like. Because that doesn't happen to many comedians, I guess, is when you get a bit yelled at you.
No, it doesn't happen that often. And I truly haven't done the bit in like 5 years, probably. You know, like maybe I don't know, maybe since whenever. No, for 4 years. 4 years, yeah, because that's when it came. Yeah, so about 4 years. And it's cool that like. The thing I take from that joke now is that I wrote something that was, in my opinion, I thought was very funny and really good. That I wrote something that can really resonate with people, which means I can probably do it again if I focus really hard. Which means I can be good at this.
That's a great mentality to have.
Yeah, like it's a little scary because I don't want it to be the only thing I do, and it won't be, but you know what But
it's a beautiful mentality to have in your head that you're like, I've done it once, I can do it again.
Yeah, and I just have to find
yourself.
Yeah, and you have to. It's like you know, and some bands are one-hit wonders, but very successful bands. You know what like? Yeah. Like one of my favorite bands is Nada Surf. Do you remember them?
I remember them vaguely. I don't remember their music, but I know their music.
Yeah,
like I know the name.
Do you remember them? Yeah. Popular, I'm a quarterback star. It was like a very 90s song. But they write great music.
Yeah.
And they have like these kind of diehard fan base.
Were they in like Tony Hawk's or something? I feel like
no, they like had a song that was very like. Casey, you remember them? Yeah, Always Love. Yeah, that was a big
Not a Surf was in like
I think
it was in my universe of music and on the same
I mean, we have
lineups with like
how old are you?
I am 28.
Yeah. So I'm a bit older than you, but like this was like so it's a little pre your time of probably really
but I think you and I both did gravitate towards similar music from what I could gather, which is sort of like some punk and emo and stuff. Yeah.
But they were like I guess post grunge, maybe kind of grunge, but didn't really fit in either of those eras. They're just good indie rock kind of band, but they wrote that song and that was like their big hit.
Yeah.
And that's the thing people know. But then you're like listen to the rest of their albums and you're like, this is incredible. Like everything he does is great. You know, like did you ever see Give It Up for Greg Giraldo, that documentary Comedy Central put out when he died?
Yes.
At the end of it, they have a song play called Imaginary Friends, and it's by Not a Surf. It has a Lenny Bruce reference in it, and it's like very like so. Give it a listen if you like good music, and people
I will.
who will
yeah,
reference
I mean,
like
it's. I feel like I've listened to it at some point and just don't remember.
Yeah,
like
I'll send it to you.
You said Not a Serve, and I was like, yes, I know it. I was like, but I don't know it, you know?
Yeah, but they were kind of one-hit wonders, and they still make great stuff, and they still do well. They have their audience, you know?
Yeah.
Like, so maybe if I had that, if I really broke it to a place where people were like, oh, he's like, sells this many tickets wherever he goes all the time, you know, like,
yeah,
that would be exciting. But I want more than that, too, you know? Like, so that's I just hope I'm not some kind of one-hit wonder comic.
I don't think that's gonna happen, Shane. I think you're gonna be okay.
Sure.
I mean, you seemed like you have a lot of prospects on the horizon. I mean, the pandemic hit and you had a pretty great prospect. I won't go into it because you're talking about it in the set. And I don't want to go into too much stuff on that one. But you know, I mean,
keep it going.
Yeah, it's like you got cool shit coming up, and So I have like things that I wanted to just talk about in general, like cool things that I think you've done. I mean, so you also, when I first found out about you, I found out about you toured with Patton Oswalt.
Yeah.
It was like initially, and then you started touring with Bert Kreischer,
Yes.
from what I learned. So how far into comedy were you when it started with Patton Oswalt, when you started touring with Patton? And then like how far were you when it started happening with like Bert?
Well, yeah, that's a
You know, I mean, and obviously
in the sense
everybody
I
works
don't know
at
exactly
different
like
paces.
what the number of years was and stuff. And like with Patton, I was at Moon Tower 4 years ago, and I'd met Patton before, but we weren't like that friendly.
Yeah.
Like we didn't know each other well. I was at Moon Tower like 4 years ago, and I'd literally had just taped my half hour, left from New Orleans, flew to Austin, and this was right when the Guy Fieri bit was like starting to cook, and I did it at Moon Tower, and people like Patton saw it and it was like, that was great, you know, and I was very flattered. And then we kind of like they would be like, do you want to do this with Patton in like San Francisco? Like, you know, you're close by or whatever. Do you want to do? And so it kind of like, we didn't really tour so much together, so we would do a few shows together here and there, and I'd be close. Like, he was always good to me, but I wouldn't say like, it wasn't like we did 25 dates in a row.
Fair enough.
Yeah. But
do you think that attributed to the work later with Bert, or do you think that attributed to other people sort of seeing you within the industry, like that work that you did with Patton? Did that help move things along?
The more
do you
profile
think,
you raise, the better it goes. But like, Bert was a completely organic thing in and of itself too. Like, I just worked with him once in Seattle, and this was when he was still at clubs, and like, you know, he was doing better than I was tonight, but like he wasn't selling clubs yet, really.
Yeah.
And then we worked together another time in St. Louis, and it just by happenstance both times. And without getting into too much detail,
sure.
We just like kind of like we had a pretty like thick conversation one
Just
night.
struck
about
up
stuff.
a friendship.
Yeah,
kinda,
and he was like really like, you know, thoughtful and just kind of rooted for me, and he was like, and it just kind of went that way. Like, but like it was like very it was a very organic.
I remember
that's the thing is like you need to be funny in this game, and you need to work really hard, and you have to be nice. Like, you don't have to trust everyone, but you do need to be nice, because like people like remember that shit. You know, like like it's like you were saying, like when you were telling earlier, it was like I've never heard of that guy, and he was like, well, he's never heard of you. Like you're like you don't even know. Sometimes you're not even trying to say anything that might offend somebody, but you just have to be very careful because it's like a lot of sensitive people who deal with language.
Yeah.
So they wonder how you infer things. It's like it's in our nature. You know, like
we deal with tone.
Yeah.
We deal with the amount of wording.
Yeah.
Like we think about how many words you put into something. Like, and how blunt something comes across. Yeah, I think and comedians are very sensitive. We overthink everything.
For
too.
sure. And you also like, I'm doing this podcast with you right now, and I am thinking about things I haven't made public yet that are on the horizon.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how will this be inferred? How will people think about it if this other thing goes well?
Yeah.
I'm trying to be as truthful as I know how to be, but I don't want to like say something and be like, well, that wasn't true at all.
Yeah.
And you think about that too, because you're like, it's just weird, and everything is so documented now. Like, I don't know, I don't know when you started doing comedy, but when I started, not everything was online. Like I've only been doing comedy 15 years, but like when I say not everything was online, what I mean to say is like, you didn't put your shit up online for free. It was like, you were like, no, I'm holding on to this for an hour.
I started, I've been in it for almost 9 years now. And
you started young, huh?
I started at 19.
Yeah.
I knew what I wanted to do.
Yeah,
I knew what I wanted to do
man.
at 17. I was binging You Made It Weird with Pete Holmes. I would go onto You Made It Weird. Like, I'd go onto Google, type in You Made It Weird, and then whatever comedian's name I liked at that moment, and I'd find their You Made It Weird episode, find out how they started, find out everything
that's cool
about
that you
starting.
had that advantage, to know comedy intimately from an early age.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I dissected
it
it.
gives you a pedigree to some degree that like maybe I didn't have, but in a different way. Like
I definitely had access to inside information on comedy that you probably didn't have when you started because of podcasting being a thing like it was.
And just the internet, comedy on the internet.
Exactly. But we weren't at the point yet where everybody was putting out like a minute every week or something. Like that wasn't the thing yet. Like it wasn't the Andrew Schultz method, I guess.
I don't necessarily think it's a good thing. No.
I don't love it either. I don't like putting out clips of like my sets because I do sort of have that same mentality. And some people have told me I shouldn't. And some people have told me they respect me having it where I'm like, I kind of want to save this to put it out as a piece almost.
Yeah.
Like, I want
to put
it
it
out
to
as
do
an hour,
neither one of them is wrong because every rule in comedy is made up to fucking begin with.
Mm-hmm.
Like the only real rule is that like gravity is real essentially. But there's no rules in comedy. This is what I like and what I think works. And it's part of it's because I'm a little older school. But the other thing is like I don't know if putting out a million things of crowd work in a year, like a million is like a great idea.
I was just saying.
I mean, like, I don't know how it affects those guys' show. Most of my shit is not crowd work, and I'm not dogging these guys. Do whatever you want. That's not what I'm trying to say. But I'm like, does that affect the audience that comes in to see them?
I literally had this conversation with one of our door guys earlier today, like before your show, Shane. I was literally standing out there talking to him outside, and I was saying that it is interesting that the clips that seem to be the most successful right now is these crowd work clips. That's what seems to get the most views right now. And so it seems like a lot of comics are going for crowd work specifically in clips. And not everybody, but I'm noticing an upwards tick in this trend almost, where I'm seeing a lot more crowd work videos than I've ever seen before.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think there's a couple reasons. It's because you're not burning material, obviously.
One, it's like what's hot right now.
Yeah, and two, it's like it's what's hot right now. But then I also said that same thing that you said is, how is that going to affect your audience, though, in the end? Will you get people coming out who just want to see you crowd work, and that's what they're there for, Because it's like you might start to draw that at a certain point if that's like what you're pretty much putting out. I think, I don't know.
Like, if that's
for
what
sure,
you want, you're fine with it. I think it's fine.
Yeah.
And I also don't think like that rule means that necessarily is going to apply to people who come to my show, who come to your show, are going to be like, why aren't you doing crowd work? I don't. They might think that. Some people will for sure, and some people will not. But it's like, it's all fine. I also don't know. I'm not going to say names, but some of the shit people put out, crowd work and material on clips, I'm like, I don't think that's good. Like, I don't. I'm not gonna say any names because like everybody's allowed to try and earn a living, but I think. What you clear your throat for? You got something you want to say?
We got.
Yeah, me too. It's hard. It's not easy for us. But I don't think it's good, and I think some people like should actually think about. They put out not just bad material or bad crowd work. They put out bad footage of the crowd work or material, and you're like, I can barely hear this. I can barely see your face, like. Or
or they put out crowd work where the crowd's winning.
Yeah,
that's even weirder to me.
Yeah, and you're just like, what do you? Is this just like when you put The Office on when you get to your hotel room and it's just staying all like, and I'm folding my fucking laundry? Like, think about your art. It's not content. Like it's like for you it's content. For some people it's art. And for some people it's both. Yeah. But for me, I don't know. I want to think about it. I want people to actually be like, that was a good bit. And not just be like, fucking, here's McDonald's. Like, I'm making steaks and you're making fucking shitty cheeseburgers.
Yeah.
I eat them both.
I wanted to also talk about opening for bands as well, which is something that you have experience doing. You talk about in your set, but also you're wearing the Jawbreaker shirt.
Yeah. My name's on the back of it, too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah? I didn't even see your name on the back of it. But I know you was it a couple shows that you did with them?
Couple
or a few
shows. Yeah.
Yeah, and so have you toured or done any like other? I mean, I know it's like hard to call it touring, I guess, with like 2 shows.
I've done festivals with bands, and like I've been invited to do some other stuff with bands. Like.
How do you feel about that?
It's like, for me, it's like I love these artists. Like so it's cool. I get to like for me, it's like. The money's not like mind blowing, or but it's like you don't do it to get rich. You do it because you're a fan of something. Like this is like more than anything, comedy has provided me some very cool moments. Like like and a living and like a sense of real purpose and a lot of other things. But it really has given me like some truly amazing memories. Like
I've seen some of those Burt Tours Instagram stories.
Those
that
are
you
fucking
got,
nuts, dude.
Those are crazy. Some of the experiences that it seems you guys get to do, like touring with him.
We did 2 shows at the Fox here. That's like 5,000 seats, and they were all sold out. And that's one of the most beautiful buildings I've ever been in.
Ornate.
Yeah, it is like beautiful.
It's a historical monument.
Yeah.
They're not allowed to do anything to that building without running it through like the Detroit Historical Society, and like it takes like a year to get like anything even refurbished. Yeah, exactly. Like if you want to put up new plastic on something, it's like a year to get it approved because it's a historical building and there's so many levels of like Detroit just bureaucracy you have to go through.
And it's
for
like,
that
but
building.
so those was cool. And then like, we did we walked around on a private tour of Lambo. Like we did like
you did a private tour of Lamborghini.
No, of Lambeau Field.
Okay. Yeah. I was like, Lamborghini. I was like, you're just calling them Lambos like that, dude?
Guy showed us his car.
I thought you were like, we went to the Lamborghini plant, the factory. They showed us around. Yeah. I thought you were
fucking Russian guy pulled up. They love Burt.
That's what I thought it was. I mean, it doesn't sound beyond belief for a Burt Kreischer tour to go to a Lamborghini factory.
You get a lot of cool things, and then like you also have these moments in these situations where you're like, oh, like all this stuff is super nice, like the fancy dinners and all that shit. Like, it really is. And then you're just like, the dinners and the parties and the shows, like it's still about the shows. It is always, I can tell you more about the shows than I can any of the other stuff. Like every single time. Like the other shit is great.
And what's your favorite place you've gotten to perform at then, out of all of the shows you've done? Because you've done a lot of different places. You've toured around the world at this point, correct?
I've done some stuff, I guess.
So, I mean, what would be? I guess maybe it's hard to pick one. If you had to pick a few, what are the like?
Well, there's like the iconic stuff, like when you're like stuff I've done with Burt, and like, you're like the Beacon thing. That's cool. The Beacon Theater is cool. The Madison Square Garden is very cool. And they're great, but like they also are and it's super exciting, and it's special. It really is. You know, you're in a place, you like walk around, and then like it changes because that stuff is big, but then also it's like for me, it's like it's still like those big rooms I haven't filled yet. Those are Bert's shows.
Yeah.
You know, like, and I'm happy he chooses to share them with me, and I'm happy Pat in his shows and share them with me, and like other guys. But you know, like I remember one of the big ones for me was like this past year. It was like I played the Punchline in San Francisco like for a full week, and you know I had really fun, good shows, and that to me was like, well, the first time I walked in that place, I was like, oh wow, that's like this is where a lot of important shit happened, you know, like, and you're like, I think this was the last place Robin Williams performed. I think like it was like one of those kind of things. You're like, you do forget like those little things that like because I don't know Joe Rogan. I opened for him one time, and he was very nice to me, right? And whatever, I don't care about your opinion on him, but I'll say this, and I think it's true. He said to me, he goes, remember, this is all supposed to be fun. That's why we started doing it. You know, like...
Yeah,
and
that
so,
is
and
the
like,
truth.
Yeah. And then he said that to me, and then I was like, I have that every once in a while. I'm like, fuck yeah, man. Like, that was like Punchline on my own. That's pretty fucking cool. You know, like, I played the Metro in Chicago, last place Nirvana ever played. Like, big part of my, you know, like, big part of my, then I fucking... those kind of moments, you know, like I was just in New Orleans for a friend's bachelor party, and we went to Tipitina's, which is like a super legendary venue and a big part of New Orleans, and Rebirth was playing, which is a massive, massive act in New Orleans, brass band, huge, and they draw everywhere they go. But they knew one of the comics, and they just put us up in a private space, like, and we just watched the show, like, all to our, you know, and like everyone's dancing and sweating and drinking over, and you're like, oh, this all happened because of comedy. Like, it really, all of it happened because of comedy. And then like I was walking in, and one guy goes, that's Shane Torres. Like, and I was like, you know what I mean? It's like, it's one person, and there's 300 people there, or 500 people, whatever it is. And I was like, oh, this is cool. You know what I mean? Like, it
cool.
feels good, man. It really, and like, so that's the kind of things I take from it, or like those shows and those moments where you're like, this is like pretty sick.
I had one of those recently that I felt very thankful for comedy outside of comedy in a way. I think you're probably friends are familiar with Neil Rubenstein or Neil Rubenstein. No, maybe.
Do you know him?
Yeah, New York comic, I guess. No. Exactly.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's current. He just was like
people
on
are
tour
just
with
gonna
him.
wonder who's off.
Sorry, yeah, Casey Aurora over there. And so but he's touring with Motion City Soundtrack currently. He's a funny comic, came through Detroit about a month or two before he went on tour with Motion City. I'm a huge Motion City Soundtrack fan. I've loved them since I was younger.
Yeah.
They hit a special place for me where it's like upbeat pop punk music with dark lyrics though about like wanting to die, like and stuff like. And as a teenage emo kid, that connected where it sounded upbeat but it wasn't. And like Neil was touring with them, and he was like, I'm going to be back through town in a couple months or whatever. And like I was talking to him about Motion City, and like he was like, yeah, if you want a ticket, I'll get you a comp when I'm touring through with them. And I was like, please, Neil. And like getting to take my fiance to a Motion City Soundtrack concert, a band that we both absolutely love, and being like, hey, my name's on the list, like at the door, dude, you know what I mean? And like they're like, all right, here's your pass, go on in. And you're like, thank you. Like,
I was in New York, and I ran into my buddy, and he was opening for Mulaney at the Garden, and my ex-girlfriend was in town with her best friend, who I also know, and we're friends, you know. And she was like,
names, no, no.
But she was here, and I just texted her. I was like, hey, like I ran into my buddy, and he's opening for Mulaney at the Garden. Do you want to come? And she was like, yeah, we would love to. You know, like let's do that instead tonight. And we go, and more or less, like we get like, you know, like 8th row, whatever, you know, like backstage kind of stuff. Yeah. And she was like, I have to tell you, we were all so impressed. And I was like, it's just because I ran into my buddy at standing outside. Like, and it was also one of those things of like, It was very funny, but it was also just like, yeah, in your face, ex-girlfriend.
There's something really nice about impressing your loved ones.
Yeah, I still adore her. She still does my website.
Yeah, perfect. All right, we gotta wrap this up. I gotta
big old dick
wrap
on
this
you.
up. Yeah,
I
absolutely.
got a big old dick on you.
Sorry. So I guess this is the last real question. I got 2 more questions. I'll keep it at that. What did your first 10 years of stand-up look like? If you can wrap it up, what did that look like to you?
To be brief, just so we can.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of drinking, a lot of hard work, a lot of like going out as much as I could, and I'm still this way, but it was very competitive.
Yeah.
Like in my head, I'm like. Because like you have your friends you start with who are good, and you're like I want to be doing as well as them, and you see that. So like in my head, not an asshole, but like other people's success can be a motivator for you. Yeah,
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. And then at one point you did have a web series called Shane Torres Conquers Fears.
Yeah.
All right. Do you have a lot of fears personally? Is that something that you? I'm not gonna ask you to
This
list
is a pretty
off your
thorough
fears.
interview.
I'm just curious. Do you have a lot of fears? Because it's
I
a
mean,
specific
like,
name for a
I
show,
will say-
or was it just an idea for the show?
It was an idea I came up with this for the show, but I will say, every Thursday I'm on the road. My fear is like, what are the ticket counts?
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I have heights. I don't like heights. If you're looking for a legitimate one, and then fear of being loved is a real thing. And let's stop.
Yeah.
I don't want to keep going.
Yeah, we don't have to keep going through fears. That's why I said, I was like, you don't even have to list them. I was just curious if you had a lot of them. But regardless, I appreciate you coming on and doing this.
This
for
was
the first
fun.
episode.
This is truly
yeah,
really fun.
absolutely.
First episode, top that, everybody.
Yeah, hopefully we get to have you back in a year and have you do episode 52
Yeah,
or 53
we're gonna
or
fucking
something.
sell it out.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Shane, thank
It's
you.
good to
I
see you, buddy.
appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And tune in again next week. Bye.